دخله كان آمنا ولله على الناس حج البيت من استطاع إليه سبيلا ومن كفر فإن الله غني عن العالمين قل يا أهل الكتاب لما تكفرون بآيات الله والله شهيد على ما تعملون قل يا أهل الكتاب لم تصدون عن سبيل الله من آمن تبغونها عوجا وأنتم شهداء وما الله بغافل عما تعملون يا أيها الذين آمنوا إن تطيعوا فريقا من الذين أوتوا الكتاب يردوكم بعد إيمانكم كافرين وكيف تكفرون وأنتم تتلى عليكم آيات الله وفيكم رسوله ومن يعتصم بالله فقد هدي إلى صراط مستقيم صدق الله.
बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम या अय्युहल्लज़ीना आमनुत्तकुल्लाहा हक्का तुकातिही वला तमूसुन्ना इल्ला व अंतुम मुस्लिमून वअतसिमू बिहब्लिल्लाहि जमीअन वला तफर्रक़ू वज़्कुरू निअमतल्लाहि अलैकुम इज़ कुंतुम आदाअन फ़अल्लफ़ा बैना क़ुलूबिकुम फ़अस्बहतुम बिनिअमतिही वकुंतुम अला शफ़ा हुफ़रतिन मिनन नार व फ़अनक़ज़कुम मिन्हा कज़ालिका युबय्यिनुल्लाहु लकुम आयातिही लअल्लकुम तहतदून वलतकुन मिनकुम उम्मतुन यदऊना इलल खैरि व यामुरूना बिल मअरूफ़ि व यनहौना अनिल मुनकर व उलाइका हुमुल मुफ़्लिहून वला तकूनू कल्लज़ीना तफ़र्रक़ू वख्तलफ़ू मिन बादि मा जाअहुमुल बय्यिनातु व उलाइका लहुम अज़ाबुन अज़ीम यौमा तबयज़्ज़ु वजूहुम व तस्वद्दु वजूहुम फ़अम्मल्लज़ीना अस्वद्दत वजूहुहुम अकफ़रतुम बअद ईमानिकुम फ़ज़ूक़ुल अज़ाबा बिमा कुंतुम तकफ़ुरून वअम्मल्लज़ीना यज़्ज़त वजूहुहुम फ़फ़ी रहमतिहिल्लाह हुम फ़ीहा ख़ालिदून तिल्का आयातुल्लाहि नतलूहा अलैका बिलहक़्क़ि वमल्लाहु युरीदु ज़ुल्मन लिल आलमीन वलिल्लाहि मा फ़िस समावाति व मा फ़िल अर्ज़ व इलल्लाहि तुरजउल उमूर कुंतुम खैरा उम्मतिन उख़रिजत
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم كنتم خير أمة أخرجت للناس تأمرون بالمعروف وتنهون عن المنكر وتؤمنون بالله ولو آمن أهل الكتاب لكان خيرا لهم منهم المؤمنون وأكثرهم الفاسقون لن يضروكم إلا أذى وإن يقاتلوكم يولوكم الأدبار ثم لا ينصرون ضربت عليهم الذلة أينما ثقفوا إلا بحبل من الله وحبل من الناس وباءوا بغضب من الله وضربت عليهم المسكنة ذلك بأنهم كانوا يكفرون بآيات الله ويقتلون الأنبياء بغير حق ذلك بما عصوا وكانوا يعتدون ليسوا سواء من أهل الكتاب أمة قائمة يتلون آيات الله آناء الليل وهم يسجدون يؤمنون بالله واليوم الآخر ويأمرون بالمعروف وينهون عن المنكر ويسارعون في الخيرات وأولئك من الصالحين وما يفعلوا من خير فلن يكفروه والله عليم بالمتقين إن الذين كفروا لن تغني عنهم أموالهم ولا أولادهم من الله شيئا وأولئك أصحاب النار هم فيها خالدون مثل ما ينفقون في هذه الحياة الدنيا كمثل ريح فيها سر وصابت حرث قوم ظلموا أنفسهم فأهلكته وما ظلمهم الله ولكن أنفسهم يظلمون يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا تتخذوا بطانة من دونكم لا يعلونكم خبالا ودوا ما عنتم قد بدت البغضاء من أفواههم وما تخفي صدورهم أكبر قد بينا لكم الآيات إن كنتم تعقلون ها أنتم أولئك تحبونهم ولا يحبونكم وتؤمنون بالكتاب كله وإذا لقوكم قالوا آمنا وإذا خلوا عضوا عليكم الأنامل من الغيظ قل موتوا بغيظكم إن الله عليم بذات الصدور إن تمسسكم حسنة تسوهم وإن تصبكم سيئة يفرحوا بها وإن تصبروا واتقوا لا يضركم كيدهم شيئا إن الله بما يعملون محيط صدق الله العلي العظيم.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وإذ غدوت من أهلك تبوئ المؤمنين مقاعد للقتال والله سميع عليم إذ همت طائفتان منكم أن تفشلا والله وليهما وعلى الله فليتوكل المؤمنون ولقد نصركم الله ببدر وأنتم أذلة فاتقوا الله لعلكم تشكرون إذ تقولوا للمؤمنين ألن يكفيكم أن يمدكم ربكم ب3,000 من الملائكة منزلين بلى إن تصبروا وتتقوا ويأتوكم من فورهم هذا يمددكم ربكم ب5,000 من الملائكة وما جعله الله إلا بشرى لكم ولتطمئن قلوبكم به وما النصر إلا من عند الله العزيز الحكيم ليقطع طرفا من الذين كفروا أو يكبتهم فينقلبوا خائبين ليس لك من الأمر شيء أن يتوب عليهم أن يعذبهم ليس لك من الأمر شيء أو يتوب عليهم أو يعذبهم فإنهم ظالمون ولله ما في السماوات وما في الأرض يغفر لمن يشاء ويعذب من يشاء والله غفور رحيم.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا تأكلوا الربا أضعافا مضاعفة واتقوا الله لعلكم تفلحون. واتقوا النار التي أعدت للكافرين وأطيعوا الله والرسول لعلكم ترحمون. وسارعوا إلى مغفرة من ربكم وجنة عرضها السماوات والأرض أعدت للمتقين الذين ينفقون في السراء والضراء والكاظمين الغيظ والعافين عن الناس والله يحب المحسنين. والذين إذا فعلوا فاحشة أو ظلموا أنفسهم ذكروا الله فاستغفروا لذنوبهم ومن يغفر الذنوب إلا الله ولم يصروا على ما فعلوا وهم يعلمون. أولئك جزاؤهم مغفرة من ربهم وجنات تجري من تحتها الأنهار خالدين فيها ونعم أجر العاملين. قد خلت من قبلكم سنن فسيروا في الأرض فانظروا كيف كان عاقبة المكذبين. هذا بيان للناس وهدى وموعظة للمتقين ولا تهنوا ولا تحزنوا وأنتم الأعلون إن كنتم مؤمنين إن يمسسكم قرح فقد مس القوم قرح مثله وتلك أيام نداولها بين الناس وليعلم الله الذين آمنوا ويتخذ منكم شهداء والله لا يحب الظالمين وليمحص الله الذين آمنوا ويمحق الكافرين أم حسبتم أن تدخلوا الجنة ولما يعلم الله الذين جاهدوا منكم ويعلم الصابرين ولقد كنتم تمنون الموت من قبل أن تلقوه فقد رأيتموه وأنتم تنظرون صدق الله العلي العظيم.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وما محمد إلا رسول قد خلت من قبله الرسل أفإن مات أو قتل انقلبتم على أعقابكم ومن ينقلب على عقبيه فلن يضر الله شيئا وسيجزي الله الشاكرين وما كان لنفس أن تموت إلا بإذن الله مؤجلا ومن يرد ثواب الدنيا نؤته منها ومن يرد ثواب الآخرة نؤته منها فسنجزي الشاكرين وكأي من نبي قاتل معه ربيون كثير فما وهنوا لما أصابهم في سبيل الله وما ضعفوا وما استكانوا والله يحب الصابرين وما كان قولهم إلا أن قالوا ربنا اغفر لنا ذنوبنا وإسرافنا في أمرنا وثبت أقدامنا وانصرنا على القوم الكافرين فآتاهم الله ثواب الدنيا وحسن ثواب الآخرة والله يحب المحسنين صدق الله العظيم اللهم صل على محمد.
Inshallah, very quickly I'll go over some of the important messages or the summary of this fourth juz of Quran that we recited. Inshallah, we'll finish it at home. This fourth juz begins with a very important ayah. If you go back to it, لَن تَنَالُوا الْبِرَّ, that you will never achieve the highest virtues unless you spend part of what you dearly love. So this is where concept of giving at the peak, at the highest level is concerned. Allah is not looking for you to just give, but He's also looking for you to give something which is what? Attached to you. Getting rid of the attachment is difficult. And anyone can give anything they want. A lot of time we're giving something which is left over, something which is spare, something which is extra. Anyone can do that. To detach something dear to you is something of a test. And therefore, when Hazrat Ibrahim was asked to detach his son from himself, having a son, that too at a very old age. Ayat of Quran says he was above 90 when he had Hazrat Ismail given to him. Then Allah says to him what? He says, فَلَمَّا بَلَغَ مَعْهُ السَّعْيَ, when he was old enough to help out his father, go ahead and sacrifice him. To detach him, Allah did not want him to die. He said, we were only looking for what? That are you really attached to him? And are you capable of detaching him to yourself? That's what's being addressed here. لَن تَنَالُوا, you will never be able to achieve the highest virtues unless you spend part of what you dearly love. And whatever you spend, وَمَا تُنْفِقُ مِنْ شَيْءٍ, whatever you spend, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is well aware of that. There are 5 main themes that we find in this 4th juz. First theme is the fadail of the house of Allah. The Baytullah, there are some fadail of that bayt is mentioned. For example, Inna awwala baytin wudi'a lin-nas lallazi bi Bakkata mubarakah. This is the first house which has been laid down as the ibadat gah for people. It is Mubarak. It is called Makkah or Bakka. It is a guidance for mankind. It has many of the signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, such as Maqam Ibrahim. Whoever enters into this house is what? Safe. Hajj is also performed over here, whoever has the ability to do so. And all of these are different signs of the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or the Haram or Makkah or Khana Kaaba. Second discussion, or the second theme in this surah, in this juz, is Ittihad. From ayat number 103 onwards, it begins talking about up till 110. وَاعْتَصِمُوا بِحَبْلِ اللَّهِ جَمِيعًا وَلَا تَفَرَّقُوا وَاذْكُرُوا نِعْمَةَ اللَّهِ عَلَيْكُمْ إِذْ كُنْتُمْ أَعْدَاءً فَأَلَّفَ بَيْنَ قُلُوبِكُمْ فَأَصْبَحْتُمْ بِنِعْمَتِهِ إِخْوَانًا. And then كُنْتُمْ عَلَى شَفَا حُفْرَةٍ, you were on the brink of annihilation, and Allah pulled you back. Hold on to the rope of Allah, the concept of rope of Allah, the strength of the rope of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that hablum mamdood, that stretched out rope. Now of course, you don't see any rope stretching from the heavens. What are the ropes? This Quran is one of the ropes, right? Ahl Bayt are the rope. Prophet, of course, was the rope. The continuation of the prophethood in the form of Imam of our time is the rope. All the good deeds that you perform, they multiply. They're weaker links, but as long as you have all, it'll make this rope to be stronger. So the concept of, bahmi ikhtilafat ko dur karna, removing all your personal differences, it says, wa'tasimu. Hold on to the rope of Allah. All of you together in congregation. Remember the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has kept you together, and then you were enemies of one another. Again, there is so much discussion in it. I don't want to go in that details. Number 3, the concept of Amr bil Maruf and Nahi anil Munkar is being mentioned. Right after the discussion of being, unity and not causing any sort of discord, there is Amr bil Maruf. The behtareen and the best of the nations are those, وَلْتَكُنْ مِنْكُمْ أُمَّةٌ يَدْعُونَ إِلَى الْخَيْرِ. Let there be the people who call people towards khair. يَأْمُرُونَ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَيَنْهَوْنَ عَنِ الْمُنْكَرِ. Those who guide people towards amr, and those who forbid others from nahi. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also mentioned another important attribute of those who do this amr and nahi. If you go to ayat number 110, I believe. And 110, kuntum khayra ummatin. This is important. You're the best of the nations ever brought forth. Why? Koi surkhab ke par lage mein? Are we someone important? Why are we the best nation? Same claim could be made by others. Now, the reason you're the best of the nations that is brought forth is because you do amr bil maruf and nahi anil munkar. Other nations neglect this aspect of life. They are too afraid to do amr and nahi. You do that, and therefore you are the best of the nations. 4th main discussion is the 3 Razzawat that took place. Ghazwa Badr, Ghazwa Uhud, and Ghazwa Humra al-Asad. Ghazwa Badr, of course, is the discussion where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, remember in the time of Badr, kuntum azilla. The word azilla refers to you were lowly, you didn't have much recognition. Allah provided help for you. You were in need, Where is this ayat? وَلَقَدْ نَصَرَكُمُ اللَّهُ بِبَدْرٍ. Allah indeed helped you in Badr. أَنْتُمْ أَذِلَّةٌ. You were very lowly. فَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ. That where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because of your sabr that you displayed, بِثَلَاثَةِ آلَافٍ مِنَ الْمَلَائِكَةِ الْمُنزِلِينَ. 3,000 angels came down to go ahead and do this nusrat to you. So that was the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Similarly, later on, which we didn't get to, there's an indication toward Battle of Uhud and Ghazwa, which is known as Humra al-Asad. And the last discussion that you can find in this juz number 4 is the 4 principles of success. You've seen a lot of books, right, that are written by successful people. Principles of success, principle of making money, principle of running a business, principles of this, principle of that. And ultimate goal is to give you that which is the principle of ultimate success. Quran, and especially this 4th juz, also gives you the principle of success. The ayat is isbiru wasabiru warabitu wattaqu. We didn't get to that ayat. We didn't get to that ayat. But the 4 things that are mentioned in it, I'll tell you the ayat right now. Sabiru. It's last ayat, 200. Last ayat of the juz. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu isbiru wa sabiru wa rabitu wattaqullah. Last ayat of Surah Al-Imran. That have sabr, have what is called musabira, meaning help each other with patience, not just have sabr for yourself. And then establish good relations, rabitu, and of course we know what taqwa is, wattaqullah. These are considered to be what? 4 elements of success. Murabita also refers to that always be ready for your enemy, meaning when you have close relations with your own, you're always like bunyanun marsus, like this, wall, this strength that no one can penetrate you. That's why there's what? There's always blessings in numbers in congregation when you individually do an action or when you as opposed to do it in congregation. So these were some of the things that were found in this juz. Inshallah, we'll discuss the rest of it in the coming night. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين بالقاسم محمد وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا أما بعد فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى وقوله الحق وهو أصدق القائلين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ألف لام را كتاب أنزلناه إليك لتخرج الناس من الظلمات إلى النور بإذن ربهم إلى صراط العزيز الحميد صدق الله العلي العظيم. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. About 17 minutes in my possession. The verse that I recited is from Surah Ibrahim, very first ayat, which I recited for you last night as well. Inshallah, as promised, we will start with the tafsir of chapter number 54 from the Holy Quran, Surah Qamar. And my request was that, it will be more enjoyable, more understandable if you were to also look at some of these verses on your way here, for example. Just browse through some of the ayat, the translation of it. It'll make it'll make the understanding of these ayat much, much easier. Of course, I'll try my best to go and delve into these, explaining them and elaborating them. But just to connect with the last night's discussion, I recited this ayat in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala considers Quran to be nur. And we discussed that for the illumination of dark, to remove the darkness from the world, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created two anwar. One in the form of the sun, for at least for our universe, right? For at least our planet. There are two things that remove the darkness. One is the sun during the daytime. The other one is the moon at the night time. And of course, now with the advancement and all that, we have light available at whatever time we want inside our halls and all that stuff. That is now history. So, but looking at the concept how people used to live, these were two only resources for their survival, as far as to navigate. Even till this day, navigation systems, especially on the sea, are based on the moon and the directions that are provided. Don't ask me how. Therefore, we looked at and we concluded that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah Yasin, when He says, لَلشَّمْسُ يَنْبَغِي لَهَا أَن تُدْرِكَ الْقَمَرَ وَلَا اللَّيْلُ سَابِقُ النَّهَارِ وَكُلٌّ فِي فَلَكٍ يَسْبَحُونَ. So when these two are created, what do? They start fighting with each other? Do they start taking over one another? Do they miss their steps and one comes before the other? Do they overlap each other? Well, sometimes they do overlap in a sense that there's eclipse and whatnot, but still, neither one takes over the other. Meaning what? They're always running in this constant cycle which is set by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So He said, neither it behooves the sun to overtake the moon, nor may the night outrun the day. And each swims in its own orbit. Both are swimming in their own orbit. Yes, they cross paths in a way where we have these eclipses, and of course for which we have namaz-e-ayat. This sun and moon are not on their own. They don't overtake one another. ذَلِكَ تَقْدِيرُ الْعَزِيزِ الْعَلِيمِ. That is the ordaining of the Almighty and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when it comes to the universe, when it comes to our planet, we have these two nur that provide this light to us. Therefore, brothers and sisters, the way there's darkness initially in the universe, and two are created to remove this darkness. Similarly, there's darkness that exists inside our hearts, and that darkness also has to be removed. Mankind is created what? All knowledgeable. That's one difference between us and Masumeen. Masumeen are born with this knowledge. They bring this ilm from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ilm ladun. Prophet brings this ilm ladun on his own. Now, he passes this ilm down to the Masum, the next Masum, the following Masum. But it's not that they are illiterate from the beginning. This is for us. When the ayat of Quran says, Wallahu akhrajakum min butuni ummahatikum la ta'lamuna shay'a. But when Amirul Mu'mineen was born, his mother brought him out of the Kaaba. Did Amirul Mu'mineen fit this ayat? That akhrajakum min butuni ummahatikum la ta'lamuna shay'a, that Allah brought you out of the bellies of your mothers, you did not know a thing. No, Ali ibn Abi Talib was reciting the Quran, he was reciting the Torah, he was reciting the previous scriptures. So therefore this ayat will not be manifested over Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salatu wasalam. Ali cannot be the misdaq of this ayat, nor can the other Aimma. Therefore, we conclude the difference between us and them. That's as far as the knowledge is concerned. But you and I are being discussed over here. There's darkness in our hearts. And when we have this darkness in our hearts, we need to be able to find those anwar, those noors, those lights, which can remove this darkness. The same way the universe is illuminated by the sun and the moon. هُوَ الَّذِي جَعَلَ الشَّمْسَ ضِيَاءً وَالْقَمَرَ نُورًا. It is God who has made the sun radiant and the moon illuminous. Our hearts are also in darkness. This is more important. Whether we get the light or not in the universe, that's another story. Yes, the universe is all illuminated, but that still does not illuminate the hearts of mankind. Our hearts also have to be illuminated. In order to bring the light to remove this darkness, Allah sent down two lights. The way Allah sent down two lights to illuminate the planet, He sent down two lights to also illuminate our hearts as well. One is in the form of this Quran, the second is in the form of the Holy Prophet Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wa alihi wasallam. For Prophet Quran said, قَدْ جَاءَكُمْ مِنَ اللَّهِ نُورٌ وَكِتَابٌ مُبِينٌ. Indeed, a light and a clarifying book has come to you from Allah. So book is mentioned. What is this nur being mentioned? It could be none other than the wujud of Rasulullah, who is there to invite and who is there to explain this nur in the form of Quran. And as far as Quran is concerned, Quran is also called nur in Quran. It says, وَاتَّبَعُوا النُّورَ الَّذِي أُنزِلَ مَعَهُ. Follow that nur which is revealed onto Prophet. So this ayat also tells us that nur here refers to Quran. So in the first ayat, nur refers to Rasulullah. In the second ayat, nur refers to Quran. Quran, in the words of Amirul Mu'mineen. You know how Ali looks at Quran. You and I might not have that same attachment. You know, when you ask someone to explain about someone else's child, you know, I only know these kids for whatever time that I come across with them here, for example, during my interaction. So if you ask me about any of these kids sitting over here, more than likely I'll give you very positive words about them. But if you were to ask their own parents about them, well, in front of others, parents would like to keep the integrity of the child. They'll mention good things. Yeah, no, he's good, mashallah, gets good grades, he's good in his school, he's good in that, he's good in that. But then if you're like, no, be honest, would you also mention other things? Say, wow, he's very, itna shararti hai, itna ye karte, and all. So you'll go ahead and throw in all those things as well. Because you know your child better than anyone else. You know yourself better than anyone else. You know your child better than anyone else. Who better to explain to us this Quran? Because Quran is, in a word, the child of Amirul Mu'mineen. Because Quran is something, Amirul Mu'mineen is Quran and Natiq, while Quran is Quran Samit. And therefore, in order to understand, who better than Amirul Mu'mineen to explain this Quran to us? Look at these words of Ali. He said, ثُمَّ أَنزَلَ عَلَيْهِ الْكِتَابِ نُورًا لَا تُطْفَأُ مَصَابِيهِ. Again, Ali refers to Quran as Nur. He said, then Allah sent him the book as a light whose flames cannot be extinguished. The light who can never be, any light that you have, any light could be put out. Any fire could be put out. Regardless of how big or small, you can put out this fire. It can be extinguished. But Quran is the flame which can never be extinguished. A lamp whose gleam does not die. A sea whose depth cannot be sounded. A way whose direction does not mislead. A ray whose light does not darken. A separator of good and evil whose argument do not weaken. One who clarifies, one whose foundations cannot be dismantled, a cure which leaves no room for disease, an honor whose supporters are not defeated, and the truth whose helpers are not abandoned. These are the words of Ali ibn Abi Talib as far as explanation of this Quran is concerned. Yet it sounds better in Arabic when he says, نورا لا تطفأ مصابيحه سراجا لا يخبو توقده بحرا لا يدرك قعره منهاجا لا يضل نهجه شعاعا لا يظلم ضوءه فرقانا لا يحمد برهانه تبيانا لا تهدم أركانه شفاء لا تخشى أسقامه إلى آخر. This is how Ali ibn Abi Talib explains this Quran. But then Prophet, why is this Prophet then complaining about this Quran? If this Quran is so illuminated, it is nur, it is that guide, it is all of that, why do we find that Rasulullah is complaining on the Day of Judgment as far as this Quran is concerned? Turns out Rasulullah is not complaining if there's anything lacking in this Quran. Rather, Rasulullah is complaining that while Quran possesses all of these things, it is Burhan, it is that guide whose honor and the supporters are never defeated, they're never abandoned. Yet people, when they abandon this book, then of course it's going to abandon them as well. Amir al-Mu'mineen is saying, Haqqan la tukhdalu awanuhu. It is the truth which does not abandon its followers. Meaning Quran will never abandon us. But then why is it in Quran Allah says, Ya qawmi ittakhadhu hadha al-Quran, Ya Rabbi inna qawmi ittakhadhu hadha al-Quran mahjura. Oh my Lord, my people abandoned this book. Quran did not abandon. We abandoned the Quran. Turns out it is a mutual understanding. You say, well, I'm happy. I'm ready to get married. So 50% is there, preparation. No, you need to have the other half also prepared to get married. You can't just have marriage with 50% preparation. The other 50 has to also be included. Same thing goes with Quran, hand in hand. This Quran can be a guide only if you have this marriage with this Quran, that mutual understanding with this Quran. So not acting on Quran is a sign of mahjuriyat. He said, no, we have not abandoned Quran. Alhamdulillah, we use this Quran during the month of Ramadan. Explain the Quran, we do all of that stuff. True. It's kind of like this nuskha, this prescription that doctor gives you. You took it from the doctor, you read it, and then you put it in your pocket. Are you going to get the cure of the illness for which the doctor has written the nuskha? No. You have to go ahead and apply this nuskha and this prescription. Without the application, you won't find that cure. Guess what? Quran is the same way. The prescription is there, all in front of us. What do we got to do? Go ahead and apply it onto us. So mahjuriyat of Quran is not just that we abandoned it, put it away, like some have done, wrapped it around nicely, put it away so that nobody can touch it. Many have done that as well. They don't read it for years and years. That's not the mahjuriyat which is being mentioned. Mahjuriyat is that those of us who read it on regular basis, yet still we don't apply the teachings of this Quran. And therefore you find that today these extremists, they are using the ayat of Quran in their own understanding, interpreting it in their own way. And therefore today these takfiris who have been calling the Shias to be, for example, kafir. Unfortunately, yesterday there was this incident in the haram of Imam Radha where a Wahhabi man attacked 3 ulama by stabbing. I believe 2 of them have passed away. One is struggling for his life. Why? Their misunderstanding of this Quran. They read Quran, but their misunderstanding of this Quran. Quran says in Surah Nisa 94, وَلَا تَقُولُ. He said, well, they're kuffar. Mahdurud dam, you can go ahead and shed their blood. Kuffar means Shias are kuffar. You can go ahead and shed their blood. While Quran says, وَلَا تَقُولُوا لِمَنْ أَلْقَى إِلَيْكُمُ السَّلَامَ لَسْتَ مُؤْمِنًا. Do not accuse anyone who claims himself to be Muslim of disbelief. We claim ourselves to be Muslim. Well, at least for you. Now, how can you go ahead and associate the concept of disbelief? Oh, because of khulafa, they say this to khulafa, they say that to khulafa, they don't do these things, they do this in Muharram, they do that in... None of those things come into play as long as they believe. Ayat of Quran, Surah Nisa 94 says what? It does not talk about anything but the claim that these people have. Islam goes to the extent that if a person says, I am a Muslim, you don't have to ask any questions. A person who's selling you meat says, I am Muslim, this is halal, no further questions need to be asked. Yeah, of course, if you have surety and other things, then you go out and do your research, but you don't need to make your life miserable over this. Person is Muslim and he's saying this is halal and this is zabi'ah halal. That's all that matters to you. You don't have to go out and do further research. Shariat has made things simple for you. So therefore we find that we've been saying Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, Ashhadu anna Muhammadur Rasulullah. In fact, we add and complete the shahadat by saying wa Ashhadu anna Amirul Mu'mineen, Imamul Muttaqeen, Aliyun Waliyullah, wa Wasiyyu Rasulillah, wa Khalifatuhu bila fasl. Salawat bi Muhammad. They believe Prophet and Quran to be the two nur. But the problem arose when they forgot after Prophet the nur has to continue. Quran continued. They abandoned the second portion of it. That's why when Prophet was leaving, he said what? Inni tarikum fikum thaqalain. I leave behind 2 weighty things. So when Prophet leaves this world, But if a nation who does not believe in Ahlul Bayt does not follow them, then how do you expect this nation to come out and to be able to remove their doubts? Because the knowledge that is hidden in Quran can only be deciphered, can only be decrypted by those who are heavily vested in this Quran. You know, science, engineering, economy, these are all good things, but they may not remove the darkness of the heart. You might find the brightest of the scientists in the world still does not believe in the existence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if anything these other sciences could have done, they should bring you closer to the wahdaniyat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yet we find many of these scientists of the world who have discovered many things, by the way, yet they have a hard time believing that there is one Lord, there is one God. Although it can inspire you and create awareness of the sovereignty of the Almighty. Scientific achievements may have made our lives better, but the humans lived before these achievements peacefully before as well. They lived peacefully and they lived without these achievements. So meaning what? While all of these things are achieved today through scientific means and the advancement which are making our lives easier, but still they're not removing the darkness that exists inside us. So we find that, you ask kids these days, they'll give you a detailed account on these celebrities and on the players and on the other social media aspects. But when you ask them about how many, ayat of Quran talk about Rasul, how many ayat of Quran talk about this, how many ayat of Quran were revealed here, what chapter discusses that, what chapter discusses this, what about the Ma'asumeen, you will find them to be lacking in those areas. So therefore it is important that these sort of sessions have to take place in order for us to get closer. I'll conclude with this because I've run out of my time. It's almost time for adhan and the announcements will also be made. Quran and Prophet are two anwar. But when Prophet was leaving, he pointed us toward in the direction of 12 more anwar. Not one, not two. He said, I'll give you 12 more nur through which you will never get astray. And that's why we find this hadith, Inni tarikum fikum mustaqalain, kitabullahi wa itrati ahl bayti wa innahuma lan yaftariqa hatta yarida ilayya al-hawth. That these two, as long as you hold on to these two, you will never, yes, you might go ahead and cause a separation between the two, but they will never be separated by one another. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the tawfiq and ability to follow these commands of Ma'asumeen alayhi salatu wassalam. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillah rabbil alameen. Inshallah we'll continue with the tafsir of Surah Qamar from tomorrow. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Assalamu alaikum. As a reminder, the daily program for the holy month of Ramadan will start every night at 6:45 p.m. With recitation of the Holy Quran, followed by Moulana Sahab's speech, followed by Namaz-e-Maghribain, and then we'll proceed downstairs to the banquet halls for iftar, and then come back up for Isha Salat, and the program concludes with Dua-e-Iftitah. The sponsors for tonight's program are Dr. Amir and Mrs. Afifa Rizvi, Shabnam Dinani family, and Dr. Riaz and Mrs. Anisha Hassam. May Allah bless all the sponsors and kindly recite Surah Fatiha for their marhumeen, as well as for all of our marhumeen and those marhumeen who have no one to recite Fatiha for them. Surah Fatiha. Opportunities for sponsorship of the nightly program are still available. MashaAllah, we're doing very well with the sponsorship. Thank you to all of those who've reached out the last few nights to sponsor the programs. We're still looking for 3 more sponsors for April 8th, which is Friday. as well as one more sponsor for April 10th, which is Sunday. There is a few more dates that are open later in the month, April 18th, April 19th, April 21st, and then there's some opportunities available during the last week of Ramadan as well. Anyone interested in taking advantage of the sponsorship opportunity to obtain the sawab of opening the fast, kindly reach out to myself, Brother Sharyar Heather, Brother Mustafa Kareem, or any of the volunteers or management present in the masjid. And then one final announcement, our Al-Mehdi workshop team has organized a program for girls. It's a virtual online Quran recitation program. It takes place nightly, Monday through Friday, 5:30 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. It's open to girls ages 12 to 16. The prerequisite is that you must be able to recite the Holy Quran. Anyone interested can email almehdi@masjideali.org to get registered. Without any further delay, we'll proceed with Namaz and Maghriban. Salawat.
الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله أشهد أن عليًا ولي الله أشهد أن أمير المؤمنين عليًا حجة الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح حي على خير العمل حي على خير العمل الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله صلوات
الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله أشهد أن عليا ولي الله أشهد أن عليا حجة الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح حي على خير العمل حي على خير العمل قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله الله أكبر بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إنا أعطيناك الكوثر فصل لربك وانحر إن شانئك هو الأبتر الله أكبر سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده سمع الله لمن حمد الله أكبر سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده الله أكبر أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه الله أكبر سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده الله أكبر بحول الله وقوته يقوم ويقعد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد كذلك الله ربي الله أكبر اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار بجاه محمد وآله الأطهار الله أكبر سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده سمع الله لمن حمد الله أكبر سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده الله أكبر أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه الله أكبر سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده الله أكبر الحمد لله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد بحول الله وقوته أقوم وأقعد سبحان الله سبحان الله والحمد لله ولا إله إلا الله والله أكبر سبحان الله والحمد لله ولا إله إلا الله والله أكبر أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه الله أكبر سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده سمع الله لمن حمده الله أكبر سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده الله أكبر أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه الله أكبر سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده يا لطيف ارحم عبدك الضعيف الله أكبر الحمد لله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد السلام عليك أيها النبي ورحمة الله وبركاته السلام علينا وعلى عباد الله الصالحين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر. يا أيها الذين آمنوا
صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا علي يا عظيم يا غفور يا رحيم، أنت الرب العظيم الذي ليس كمثله شيء وهو السميع البصير. وهذا شهر عظمته وكرمت وشرفته وفضلته على الشهور، وهو شهر الذي فرضت صيامه عليه، وهو شهر رمضان الذي أنزلت فيه القرآن هدى للناس وبينات من الهدى والفرقان، وجعلت فيه ليلة القدر وجعلتها خيرا من 1000 شهر. فيا ذا المن ولا يمن عليك، من علي بفكاك رقبتي من النار، في من تمن علي وأدخلني الجنة برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. Salatul Isha at 8:30.